This is Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum
Well, when you're selling, you got to know who your buyer is and you got to know how to market to them. I do.
and Dan Keller, mortgage expert with New American Funding.
Hey, rates are important, but strategy matters more than ever.
For the next hour, you'll learn impactful insider information as Christian and Dan teach about the ins and outs of Seattle's real estate market. Now, here's Christian and Dan.
Hello, and welcome to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300 AM. My name is Christian Nossum. I am the founder of the Awesome Nossum Group at Wilson Realty, a local Seattle real estate agent. And got my co-host here, Mr. Dan Keller.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Keller. I am a mortgage advisor over here in Kirkland with New American Funding.
What's
My
your MLO
Yeah,
number? Just for compliance sake.
Got to stay compliant. My MLO number is 115349, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show. Today, just teasing it a little bit, we have a landscape architect on the show.
Yep.
He's going to be starting, we're going to start interviewing him in the next segment in about 10 minutes, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
But I've kind of become obsessed with changing the curb appeal of our house at home. We kind of cut back a big magnolia tree, which is beautiful, but it was covering part of our roof and really it shut out all of the light into our living room because it was so massive.
Yep.
So we just cut it back and we're like, wow, we can actually see our house now.
Some natural light. Yeah.
It's amazing. So now I'm kind of getting obsessed with curb appeal because now I can actually see my house and I'm like, this is a little outdated. So, so it's going to be a good show. I got some good questions for him. I'm sure you do too. It's going to be fun. So, how things going, man?
Crazy good. Just, I think you and I both are doing a lot of, it's that time of year in business. It's business planning. We're wrapping up 2016, and I think any successful business owner, I come from the athletic industry, so after every season, you kind of do a brain dump and, hey, what could we have done better, and what do we need to do in the off season? In business, there really is no off season, so it's what we call it is business planning time. So, just looking back on 2016, and a lot of great things have happened. We had a record year, helped more families purchase homes than we have ever in our life. Big part of that is because of obviously my team and how we've grown and how we're catering to our real estate professionals and financial planners, people that refer us business. So, business planning for 2017 is crazy. This year just flew by.
It really did.
But
and it's smart that we're doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yep.
And we also had a record year, which was awesome.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you plan.
Exactly.
We're not just tooting our own horns because we're great at what we do. We're not great at what we do if we don't business plan.
Yep.
So
look back at what you could have done better and improve on it. So that's So,
and I know you and I, we actually went down together into August and did it was almost like a pre-business planning kind of, not retreat, but conference down in Texas, and learned a lot and kind of tuned us up. And
got to go to Dallas and get stuck in the thunderstorms and
heat and the thunderstorms,
and the humidity. And who knew that Seattle was going to be more pretty than Dallas in August?
Yeah. I know it's.
We won't talk
here.
about what you went through, though.
No, we don't need to talk about that. Don't order crab.
Don't order crab in Texas.
You might get food poisoning. Might.
Just might.
Yeah. So.
Very high chance. Yeah. All right. So, last night I was showing a house. I think I started at 8:15. It was over in Kirkland. It was a great house. Left there got home about 9:30, something like that. Yeah. I walk in the door. Kids are already in bed. Shannon's downstairs doing laundry or something. Walk in the door, and I'm like, man, something smells weird. And I'm walking around. I'm like, what is that smell? And I get closer to the kitchen. I'm like, oh, it smells like burning. I'm like, it smells like an electrical fire.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty dang distinct smell.
Yeah.
And I look at our dishwasher, and the whole front, it's a white dishwasher. We haven't remodeled our kitchen yet, so it's probably an early 2000s dishwasher.
Yep.
The whole front where the motherboard is, you can tell kind of where all the controls are at the top. Smoke black.
Wow.
Just fried. And so I ran downstairs, turned off the electrical, turned off the breaker for the dishwasher, touched it. It was still kind of warm. And I'm like, I don't know if this is still going on, if it's still burning, what's going on. So ended up just basically prying off the whole front panel and detaching the motherboard and I look at the back of it. The front of it looked fine. I look at the back of it, and there's a hole about the size, a little bigger than maybe about the size of a $quarter, you know, or not a $quarter. That'd be a quarter. Half dollar. Bigger than a quarter. One
Half
of those
dollar.
coins. Half dollar. There you go. 50-cent piece, whatever
50.
they are. Yeah. 50.
Okay.
And it totally burned through, fried through all the way, just black.
Wow.
And the whole interior was all fried. It was disgusting. So, long story short, guess what I get to do right after the show today?
You're appliance shopping, aren't you?
We're going down to our good friends over at Metropolitan Appliance, who was on the show a few months ago. Jim Freeman, he's a really nice guy. I actually immediately emailed him, and I said, hey, I'm coming in right after the show tomorrow because we're going to be right back down there. They're just next to Soto, right just south of Safeco Field.
That's
is
right.
where their office is.
Right
actually
down from us right now.
Yeah. Which actually leads right into what we're going to talk about next, about Chris Hansen buying more land down there. But yeah, so we're going over to Metropolitan Appliance.
Okay.
And he kind of quoted me a couple prices because I looked on Consumer Reports and said, all right, well, what should we be looking for? What kind of dishwashers are good? Threw a couple models at him, said, hey, do you guys carry these? And what kind of prices are they? And they were actually less than Home Depot, Lowe's, and even Albert Lee, which is another big local appliance store. So I was pleasantly surprised that he was able to be lower than them. And I didn't even say, hey, I'm not, because I wasn't going to shop him around. I knew I was going to go with him because he's a good guy. I like to support small businesses. But, so we're going over there.
Nice. Well, we've done the same, too, with Blake at Bedrooms and More, too. So
in
Jenny
Wallingford on 45th there. Yeah, actually, I was over there, I had lunch with him last week.
Yeah.
And he walked me through their new building that they're building.
Nice.
Right on the corner of 45th and, is that Latona or something?
Yeah.
Right off the freeway there on 45th and Wallingford.
Beautiful.
And their new building is going to be amazing.
Sweet.
It's like a 4-story, modern, really nice complex. But what they're in right now is fine, but the new one's going to be really, really cool. So you're going down to Bedrooms and More to do what? You buying a bed?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
A new mattress.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with what they were talking about in regards to how they make their mattresses and
and the longevity. That's what always stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just because we bought a new mattress maybe 3-4 years ago, and it's so you can't flip it because it's only one-sided, like Blake was teaching us.
Yeah.
And so just to recap, mattress companies are basically all the big ones are owned by about 3 hedge fund companies.
Yeah.
And they have done everything they can to make it so that you have to buy mattresses more often. Yeah. Makes sense.
Rigged the system.
They kind of rigged it, So Bedrooms and More, they actually, a lot of times they will make design their own mattresses, but they'll also contract out and buy mattresses and resell mattresses from companies that are good and you can get a 10, 15-year mattress still. Yeah. Where that's kind of how it used to be. So you used to have to flip your mattress over and, turn it around and you get more longevity out of it. Most mattresses these days, you can't do that. So ours at home, like I said, it's like maybe 3-4 years old. It's so uncomfortable now. It's all indented and it's just like, geez. It sucks. Yeah. It does not last. So
no,
it's too bad. So we're going to have to go down there soon.
I mean, and if you're listening, you can go to SeattleRealEstateRadio.com and look at archived interviews, but those were 2, both Metropolitan and Appliance and Bedrooms and More. Great,
very
shows.
Informative.
Yeah, tons. I mean, I left going, oh, geez.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about mattresses.
I had no clue about mattresses.
Nor did I really care until you know.
Exactly.
And then you're like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to save money.
Yeah.
Because you're spending about the same for a mattress that's going to last 2 to 3 times longer.
Yeah.
And it's organic
and I know
without all the chemicals and all that crap too.
Both of us have sent their information out to all of our clients, and I know they're getting, business and traffic from it, so that's good.
Well, and they're also, our clients are coming back and saying, hey, you know what? They really did educate me and get me a good deal. Yep. And it was more of a personalized service rather than a big box store. Yeah, whatever. Here's Bill, and tomorrow you go in and it's Jim, and the next day you go in and it's Bob, and you never know who you're going to get to. And So, we were talking about Soto. Chris Hansen, he managed to find even more land for the, hopefully, Sonics Arena. He bought 2 more pieces, the old Taylor Edwards building and a vacant lot. So now he's in on land alone at over $125 million for worth of land down there. That's kind of crazy. So we're keeping the dream alive.
Yeah.
Hopefully bringing back those Sonics. Hopefully getting an NHL team, too, because that would be sweet. I'd love to watch some NHL hockey.
I remember going to Thunderbirds games.
Yeah.
I know it was semi-pro or whatever,
but
but when
they're
I was
fun.
little, but it was cool.
Yeah, go
Down
up.
at the Key,
Mhm.
down at the Key Arena.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, that'd be
fingers
great.
crossed.
So we'll see. We'll
Mhm.
see. Even though the Seattle City Council denied his plans 5 months ago in a very controversial vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another interesting point. Some new data from credit
Mhm.
unions show that more than half of first-time home buyers are millennials right now.
Not surprising.
Not surprising, especially
Yeah.
considering who we a lot of times
Yeah.
end up helping out are millennials.
Yeah, we
Not
were talking
only,
about
but-
that the other night at our homebuyer mixer.
Yeah, last
You know?
week we had
Yeah.
a homebuyer class down in South Lake Union at the Brave Horse Tavern, and they were great. That space was amazing.
Yeah.
The food was awesome. Tons of
Food
good.
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I brought home one of their burgers, and for Jenny, it was like their smoked applewood bacon burger.
Oh wow!
Woo. And I knew you brought home a bunch of deviled
Deviled
eggs
eggs.
because you're on some diet. Anyways, that's what I said. I was like, dude, I'm gonna be riding in your car. on the way home.
Yeah,
It
my
was-
car stank.
Woo.
Yeah, thankfully the next morning it didn't smell anymore.
Well,
so.
mine smelled like really good burgers, bacon, and tater tots. So it was
Mhm.
good. That's a
It was a nice
great place.
spot. But that was a great venue
Yeah.
for the class.
Yeah, we had a good turnout too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
great audio, good 2 big screens, great turnout.
Yeah, we talked about the election and the Fed meeting in December, and we talked about home appreciation. 3 big topics that when we kind of before you and I get up there and start talking, we're just like, hey, thanks for coming out.
Mhm.
What are some things that you're hoping to learn?
Yeah, what are the top questions?
And it's on everybody's radar right now.
Yep.
Is election year going to affect rates in the market? What about the Fed? I heard the Fed funds rates going up in December and stuff. So, yeah, it was a good turnout and good meeting. So, and we're going to talk about those items today too. But first, we've got to get to our guests. So,
Yep. So coming up in about a minute, we're
Yeah.
going to have Mark Garf from Project Groundwork, and he's going to educate us on landscape architecture. And I really don't know the difference between landscape architecture,
Sounds
landscape
expensive.
design,
Yeah.
landscape contractor. I
Yeah.
have no clue what the heck those things are.
Nope. Well,
But-
in about 10 minutes, you'll be
We're
clued
going to
in.
know everything
Yeah.
about that.
And we missed your real estate minute, so we got to come back to that
Oh,
after Chris. So,
All right, we'll do that.
All right.
All right, so we got to take a quick break. Stay tuned. Like I said, we're going to have Mark on. He's a landscape architect, and he really knows his stuff. Been doing it for 18 years. So stay tuned for more Seattle Real Estate Radio after the break.
Stay tuned. We're back with more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right, hey, welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio on KKOL 1300. We've got a great show today. I'm really excited. One of the things that we forgot to talk about in the initial segment, we were talking about our homebuyer class, our homebuyer mixer we had this last week, but we've got another one coming up real quick. We're doing a couple of real quick back-to-back
We've been doing them
mixers.
every month
Yeah.
for the last 3-4 months.
Well, they're starting to fill up, and they're filling
Yeah.
up quick, and we don't want to turn people away. So this time we are hosting another beersandhomebuying.com mixer,
Mm-hmm.
November 16th at the Shelter in Ballard. So speaking of Ballard,
Yes.
our guest today,
Yes.
take
Oh,
it
you
away,
want me
man.
to take it away?
Yeah.
All right. So we have, and for some reason your last name is not on the front page here, Mark Garf.
Mm-hmm.
Said it- Garf.
Garf.
Good. I said it correct.
It's Danish for awesome.
There you go. Well, my last name's Nossum, which rhymes with awesome. So
Oh, there you go.
there you go.
Well, which is your website
and the company's name.
and company. Which is awesome.
So we got 2 awesomes here. So we're setting off this segment really
It's
well.
going to be an awesome interview.
Off to a good start. Nice.
So Mark has been practicing landscape architecture for over 18 years. He is the principal of Project Groundwork, a 5-person landscape architecture firm that creates distinct gardens reflecting the personality of their owners while respecting the environment. Project Groundwork designs a wide range of projects from intimate urban gardens to large park and recreation master plans throughout the Puget Sound. So
Yes.
thank you very much for coming on
Oh.
and sharing your knowledge with all of us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thanks for doing a show about landscape architecture.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes. Well,
There's not going to be a lot of visual today, mainly audio.
That's okay. We can talk about it.
We could maybe put some in the
We will.
video.
Yeah, we'll
If
definitely
if
do
you
that.
have anything that examples and stuff that you want to have shown over the video, we can have our video guy put those on. So
That'd be great.
because we do have video too.
I'll shoot you some images.
Yes. All right. So, first, why don't you explain what the hell the difference is between landscape architecture, landscape designer, landscape contractor? What does all that mean? Because I don't have any clue.
Yeah.
I probably should know, but I don't know. But that's why you're on today.
All right. Well, I'm glad you asked that because it is a point of confusion for some
Yes.
people, especially when they're hiring a landscape architect for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So, landscape architecture is a protected practice in all 50 states. So, if you want to practice landscape architecture, you have to have the schooling, have the experience, and actually pass a state licensing exam.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just like architecture or engineering or being a dentist or a doctor. You have to have the skills and pass the tests and get your license to call yourself a landscape architect.
Nice.
So
you're a little smarter than the average Joe.
yeah, I like to think.
In terms of landscape, at least we'll go with that.
Yeah, well, let's keep it there. Yeah.
Don't go crazy on it.
So a landscape designer, anyone can call themselves a landscape designer, whether they have the background or not. And a lot of them do have the background, just haven't taken the test.
Got it.
But if someone is, say, a master gardener and they decide they want to design gardens, they can call themselves that and do that and put up a shingle. So you don't get this backing and the education necessarily, and the licensing and the liability that comes with being a landscape architect. But there are some good designers out there. So buyer beware.
Go on. Sorry.
I was going to go into landscape contractor.
Yeah. No, do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So landscape contractors. So these are the guys that actually come out and build the project.
Got it.
There are some firms that do both, landscape architecture and building, design build firms. Our firm just focuses on design, and then we have some great contractors that we work with that actually build the project for us. We stay involved to the very end and make sure that they execute
Follow through with the plan.
Exactly. Yeah. Execute the vision.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess that kind of tells me what you do. So you're more on the design phase, the front end. You execute, or you help the contractor execute the actual vision, but you're more just the design.
Yeah.
And so why would I want someone like that versus just the landscape contractor, just some random guy on the side of the road or whatever, to do the job that maybe I have an idea. Hey, I want to throw some plants over here and maybe a little pond over here and this over here, and like. So sell me on why I should want to use that.
You could do that.
I could.
You could rely on that.
It wouldn't look great, but I could.
and that's where I was going.
Okay.
The landscape contractors, bless their hearts, they want to put in a wall.
Yep.
And they'll just tell the owner, I'm going to do this kind of wall, and I'm going to put it in, and it goes in, and maybe you're not very happy about it. And maybe they didn't think about where it should really go, how tall it should be, how to actually build it. I've seen some train wreck construction out there. So if you have a landscape architect that shows up front, we know whether or not you're going to need a permit. We know whether or not there are critical areas on site. We think about the whole site as a system. So for residential landscape architecture, for instance, we look at the whole property. It's like, how can we make everything out here sort of work together? How can we make your indoor living flow into the outdoors? How can we make it consistent and feel good kind of all the way around? And we solve problems. We see things that aren't working, and we know how to fix them. Drainage, for instance. We know how to build a rain garden. We know how to build walls, and we know how to detail the construction aspects of landscape architecture, walls, rockeries, hardscape, planting is a big component, irrigation. Everything that you might build outside, we can sort of design up front and then work with a contractor to make sure it's done right.
Nice. Take it out of my hands and put it in your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we stay involved to the very end, making sure that you don't have to deal with the contractor necessarily. I mean, you're involved for sure.
Yeah.
But we sort of manage them and make sure it turns out great.
Okay. So give me a couple examples or situations where hiring a landscape architecture architect, I guess, would be helpful? What are some examples of when that's probably a good idea?
We get a lot of our inquiries when people buy a new home. They show up on site. They see the landscape. It's maybe been neglected.
Yeah. Quite often.
A lot of times. And they want to change what things look like and how things work outside, both visually and just kind of programmatically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of features that people want to add. Fire pits are huge right now.
Yep.
Outdoor living, covered outdoor spaces. So we can take a look at that and figure out the best way to do it.
Nice.
Not just throw something out there and put a patio right over the dirt. We know exactly how to build it, how to make it work with everything else that's happening, and whether or not it's going to meet code, whether or not it'll be safe, how long it will last, that sort of thing.
Basically, you don't just throw stuff up there. You actually think about it up front, make sure it actually flows with the house.
Yeah.
Make sure it connects with the house so that it's not just like, oh, there's a fire pit over here, but that makes no sense based on where it is, with the house, with the style, the type of fire pit,
right?
All that stuff. You kind of make it all flow together.
Right, yeah. We make it kind of reflect the architecture of the home if that's important. Cool. And each homeowner it's a very individual process, a garden. It's their garden. It's made for them. It may not necessarily be what the next owner wants, and that's what we find a lot of times, that a garden is really a personal expression of that person, and they love it, and they live there, and they live in it, and then they move, and maybe the next owner isn't so crazy about some of the things. So that's where we come in. We also work from the very beginning with new construction. That
was just what I was going to ask you. So when is the best time to bring you in? Say I'm building a new house. When should I bring you in and involve you? Because you kind of do have that big overview. Here's the house. Oh, crap, I kind of forgot about the yard. What are we going to do there?
Yeah, it's great if we could come in at the very beginning. And we can work with the architect or the builder to make sure they site the house correctly.
I could see how that would be a big deal, where the house is actually sitting on the land to best utilize the plan that maybe the owner actually wants.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if there's a lot of grade changes. We can help make those transitions. We can, help foresee, drainage problems or other issues with the site.
That was the first thing that came to mind: drainage problems and grade with new construction, or if you're doing a tear down. We just did a 2-part segment on new construction, which you piggyback on top of it actually. So
nice,
it's great. So it's taking good notes here.
And we work hand in hand with the architect. Working with them on the site plan because they have a vision for the home and what everything should look like, and so we play nice and make sure that it's the vision that everyone wants, the owner, the architect, and we help make sure that it's beautiful when it's all done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I've kind of lately, and I talked about this right before you came on. We had a huge magnolia tree in our front yard, and it was so massive that you couldn't even see the house. It blocked out all the light. It killed all the grass down below, and all the plants below it were dying too because it was just literally cutting everything out. You couldn't see any light.
Yep.
So we recently just cut that back, and we can actually see our house now.
Yay.
We're like, wow, that looks like crap. I didn't know our house looked that bad. It really needs a paint job.
But you're getting more light in.
But we have a lot more light, which is great. Is curb appeal a big thing that people hire you for? Is that something that they're initially talking to you about, like saying, hey, I know in 5-10 years, I may have just bought the house, but I know in 5-10 years I'm going to want to resell. And curb appeal is a big deal, regardless of when you're in the house.
Right.
Is that something that people kind of hire you for? Or are they more not even thinking, maybe that's just my weird
No,
as a real estate agent thinking about curb appeal. But.
No, people are definitely thinking about it. They want their home to look good, to be set off by the landscape, to fit in well, and if it's designed well and it looks good and it's long lasting and it's not a mess, it's going to add value to your house.
Yeah.
So a good design can really add value down the road, and a lot of clients are looking for that. It's usually secondary though to the new outdoor living spaces that they want to see.
Yeah, which is usually in the back, not in the front.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's in the front because it has to be. And
Then
we screen it and make sure it's cozy and
Yep.
they have some privacy. But yeah, they want to. A lot of these houses in Seattle are on these tiny lots, and so we have to maximize sort of every square foot to give people as much living space as they can have in their yard.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Yeah, we might be. Shannon's my wife. We might be hiring him because I've recently gotten super obsessed now that we can actually see our house with the curb appeal.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've got from the street up, you've got a little bit of grading, but you've got a ton of. I don't want to say overgrowth. That kind of sounds
that tree,
crazy, but yeah, you've got a ton of bushes and a ton of vegetation, if you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
a lot of what we do is editing. Take this out, and we've because we're in Seattle and it's dark a lot. Yeah. And we want the light, and humans naturally want to see out. It goes back to the African plains. We find ourselves taking trees down a lot to give more light, and then picking the appropriate tree and shrubs to kind of finish it off.
Well, we obviously have a lot more to talk about, so we got to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more Seattle Real Estate Radio in a second.
Stay tuned. There's more Seattle Real Estate Radio coming up here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL. We're back with more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello, and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300 AM. We got Dan Keller on the mic trying to eat his microphone cover over here.
Yeah. Just kind of came off on me. Like, he's a tiger. My mic's attacking me in the nose.
So, we are back with Mark Garf of Project Groundwork, and he is a landscape architect, and he's been giving us some really good tips. I started asking him about curb appeal. Next up is going to be some sustainability. It's a really hard word to say. Yeah. Sustainability questions. But then also just some general kind of more 101 type questions to get people up to date on why you should hire you versus just a landscape contractor who is kind of just the grunt work person. But why it's important, and I'm learning more and more why it's actually important to hire someone to do this versus me trying to figure out what looks good. And I don't know what.
Yeah. Well, we were talking plants. We were talking over the break. So you have the perfect house for a guy for these types of services. Yep. And me too. I mean, I have a larger lot and have acreage, and so. We had to obviously get back to the show, but I know you guys were talking on break about your particular house. I mean, you have a phenomenal backyard, but it's got a lot going on back there. Same thing with the front, with grading and everything. And so, but you mentioned sustainability. I think that's a big buzzword right now in Seattle.
Yeah. Everywhere
the
too.
The whole idea.
And I think it's more than just a buzzword. It's actually truth. People are concerned about it, and they want to protect the land. And but why don't, for people that don't know what that means, why don't you quickly kind of explain?
Explain to them what you explained to me over the break, because I was like, what?
So making something sustainable means that down the road the system is still functioning more naturally. Because we came in and we built this big city in the middle of a forest. We want to do things that are a little bit more environmentally friendly, that bring back a little bit of the natural systems that used to function here. And a lot of that has to do with drainage and infiltrating water on site and not having it run off and have to go through the sewage system. It can be incorporated in a rain garden to pick up your downspouts. Planting native plants to attract birds and critters back into your yard. Using drought-tolerant plants, so you're using less water for irrigation. One way to really make a difference is to tear out some lawn. A lot of people in Seattle don't water their lawns, and that's great. Yeah. But if they do, it's a huge resource hog, and actually a lawn can be more maintenance than a well-designed landscape bed.
And that's an interesting point I hadn't even thought of, but that makes so much sense if you think about it. Yeah. The lawn, I mean, you got to mow it, you got to water it, you got to fertilize it, or maybe you don't, but you got to maintain it. Right. But if you have a pretty low maintenance, drought resistant, landscaped area,
it's actually less maintenance, and it takes a lot less water. A lot less water, yeah. Because around here we have to start mowing in February. Yeah. It starts growing. Yeah. It's just nuts.
It is crazy. So that's smart. Maybe that's what we need to do with our front yard. Yeah. So again, another reason to have you come over.
Right. So I guess in general, sustainability is a little bit lighter footprint on the land, and you can do a lot with your yard to make it a little bit more sustainable.
So for our listeners, what are some of the problems that you solve for homeowners, or you mentioned builders. So what are some of the main top 3 or 4 things that you solve for your clients?
Well, you mentioned earlier just having an overgrown yard or having grade changes. A lot of what we can do is make the circulation work better.
Okay.
Make the indoor-outdoor feel better. Raise grades, change the site around the home so that it actually so that it functions better. There's a lot of lost spaces in people's yards that aren't usable. We help find the best use for every part of the yard.
Okay.
And you mentioned builders. It's a good point. There are a lot of builders that need to put in a landscape plan after they build a home. Some of them don't put a lot of time or energy or thought into
Very
that.
little. Very
Most
little.
of them don't even think about it
Yeah.
until they're like, oh, crap,
Yeah.
we built
Yeah.
the building. Now what?
Yeah. So a lot of what I do is I fix some mistakes that could have been headed off if we had been involved earlier in the process.
Probably save some money for them had they done it initially versus having to redo it after the fact.
Yeah. I fix stairs that don't work, walkways that are in the wrong place, people parking on lawns. I solve a lot of those funky little problems for people.
You mentioned a Christian, which kind of got, I circled this because it's one of the questions we were going to ask anyways, but you mentioned a no-maintenance garden and if it's achievable. Tell us more about that.
So that's a question that every homeowner asks at some point in the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll say something like, and no maintenance, or as low maintenance as possible. And there's no such thing as a low maintenance garden.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a low maintenance anything. Even if you paved your entire yard, you would still have to do something with all the leaves that fall on it from your neighbors, from the weeds.
Seal
that come
it,
up
treat it. Yeah.
Yeah, you still have to take care of it. Things outside get dirty and
slippery
and mossy and messy. So what we do to make sure it's a lower maintenance garden is think about how the planting is going to work together, how the whole system can work so that we're not always out there fussing with every last little plant. If we can plant things in large groupings, it's easier to maintain. There are certain plant selections that are much lower maintenance than others. Perennials, everybody loves, like daylilies, for instance, or echinacea. They're beautiful in the summer. They die back in the winter, and then you have to do something with the stalks. You have to deadhead them, and then you've got this bare spot in your garden. So there's ways to design around that. A lot of homeowners actually don't mind the maintenance, and if it's a large estate garden, a lot of times they have people to take care of it for them. So at that point, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. At that point, it's just money.
Yeah, it's just money. So a no maintenance garden is impossible. A low maintenance garden is possible if it's designed correctly.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Give us some tips on the design or some thoughts on the design, the proper design for a lower maintenance.
So a lot of what we do is we'll create areas that are very simple on the ground plane, either patios or crushed rock, or areas that kind of fill up more of the ground with paved materials, and that's easier to maintain than a lot of planting.
Yeah.
But you can't just pave everything up to the fence. That looks terrible.
Really bad.
And
not good for resale value down the road.
Yeah, and it makes an unhappy place to spend time in.
Sure.
So you have to be thoughtful about where your plantings go, and if you can limit the size of the beds and the variety of plants, it's easier to maintain. And if you pick the right plants, they're drought tolerant. They survive in the summer without water.
Yeah.
If you limit lawn, that's less maintenance. So those are some of the ways.
Okay. So here's my big question. We built, remodeled a house in 2013. Yeah. And every time, obviously the focus was building the house, and then all of a sudden we have this nice house, and same thing. We basically
neglected the
house was totally overgrown, huge trees and what are those big rhododendron? But you couldn't even see the house from the main road. You didn't even know that there was a house there. The driveway was even overgrown. So I just came in and hired a company, and just said, bulldoze it, dump the trees. We're talking two huge trees, and all of a sudden, it was a whole new look. The neighbors were like, or not, we don't really have neighbors, but people would drive by and they'd stop in and be like, holy cow, we never knew that this was back there. And I was like, well, it never was. It was a 1927 farmhouse.
Yeah.
But, and that we rebuilt it. But now that it's wide open and everything, bottom line, the checks that I wrote for landscaping and all that stuff were just ridiculously huge. So tell us how somebody would go about, I guess, budgeting for something. So what's the process for calling you and saying, well, like for Christian, let's walk Christian through the next steps?
So I got a house in North Seattle.
Yeah.
It's actually a bigger lot than normal. Most homes in Seattle are 4,000 to 5,000 square feet for the lot. And we got an 8,200 square foot lot. So it's
nice.
a good sized lot. A little harder to maintain because of that. And like I said, the front is overgrown and we couldn't even see the house. But let's kind of go over, I don't know, what exactly you're asking, Dan.
What's the process? So do you come out? Do you sit down the consultation to the budgeting, to the, I don't want to say bids, but the budgeting, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I can walk you through that.
Okay.
So the first thing we need to do is look at the site. So meet with you. If it's a couple, it's great to have both people there.
You definitely need both people there.
Because there's never in the history of my job have I had, both halves of a partnership agree on anything.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't happen. So a lot of what I do is mediating, but
You're like us. We're part-time psychologists as well.
So get everyone who's kind of a stakeholder in the room, and then walk the yard, look at all the issues. I listen to what the client wants to do, with what their dreams are, what they're hoping to achieve.
And then you turn to the other client, you ask them the same thing, and they're totally different.
Right. And every client is different.
Yeah.
Every project is completely different, although everyone does want a fire pit right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. So we listen to all of that and then take our new knowledge of the site, and we go back and come up with a design proposal. We usually work in kind of 3 phases. The first phase is really fun, and this is where maybe the visuals might come in, is we do what's called a schematic plan, where we take the whole yard, lay everything out, think about the circulation, the paving, what each area is going to be, where the features are going to be, how we make the connections, what it looks like from the street. We start to think about planting, and we render it, and it's a beautiful drawing, and it usually
cool.
And homeowners just go crazy. They love it.
Yeah. Because they're seeing the end way before you can actually see the end.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. We give images to kind of key them into certain parts of the plan, and they get really excited. That's the probably the most fun part, is that initial phase, the schematic plan. And then we meet with the owners and make sure that they love what we're doing. 99% of the time they do.
Okay.
And then we move forward with what's called a pricing set.
Okay.
Because we want to very early on let the homeowner know how much things are going to cost roughly.
Is there a deposit up front for the architectural design?
Yeah. So we would put together a scope of work and proposal.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
And then they would sign that, and then we can get
Great.
started.
Okay.
Yeah. And the pricing set's really important because it helps the homeowner know kind of what everything's going to cost, and then we can tailor the construction documents for what they think they can afford to build, instead of designing everything and having them pay for everything and then not having enough money. We can just tailor it exactly.
Exactly. So I got to give you some contact info real quick. So Project Groundwork creates distinct gardens reflecting the personality of their owners while respecting the environment. They understand the ecological systems at work in the landscape and know how to build long-lasting, sustainable landscape projects. We find ways to make your outdoor dreams a reality for projects large and small. You can email them for a free on-site consultation at info@projectgroundwork.com or call 206-708-1862. That's 206-708-1862, and just ask for Mark. Mark, thank you. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Coming up here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL. We're back with more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello, and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300 AM. My name is Christian Nossum.
What's up?
I am the founder of the Awesome Nossum Group at Wilson Realty, a local Seattle real estate company, and my co-host.
Yep, Dan Keller, mortgage advisor with New American Funding. For all you Facebook Livers and listeners on the radio, I need to disclose my MLO number, and that is MLO number 115349, so we're in compliance.
Niner.
Niner.
So, let's do a quick recap. On last Wednesday, we had a homebuyer mixer, homebuyer class, whatever you want to call it, at the Brave Horse Tavern in South Lake Union. And it was great. We had a great turnout. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That venue is perfect.
Yep.
I guarantee we're going to do more there. But it was fun. And so when we started off the class, we asked kind of the audience, hey, what are kind of the top 3 to 5 big questions, burning questions that you guys have for us that you want answered tonight? And I know you wrote those down, so you remember better than I do.
Yeah, every time we do a class or every time I speak in general, I like to get an idea of kind of, I don't know, the mindset of the audience, if you will. And so, what we do is and we've been doing this for a couple of years now, asking, most of them are first-time home buyers-ish, kind of what they're thinking.
Not all of them,
what are some of their concerns? What are some of their pains? And, there were three big, a lot of hands went up, or a lot of discussion was around 3 main topics. One, everybody knows it's election year. So are the elections going to impact the market, whether it be mortgage rates, whether it be the housing market? 2, the Fed is making news with everyone thinks that the Fed is going to increase the Fed funds rate. And to the general public, they associate the Fed with mortgage rates.
Yep.
We've talked about this on recent shows.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have anything to do necessarily directly, but maybe indirectly. So we talked about that. And then the third was, and I'm getting this at every mortgage planning meeting, are we headed toward a bubble? Are we in a bubble?
Everyone's asking me too.
Yeah. So I felt like we just wrapped up a show. We're wrapping up our show this week. And I felt that we would take about 5 or 6 minutes and discuss those 3 topics. So let's talk about the bubble, man. What
That's
do you
the big
think?
one. So our economy here in Seattle is pretty dang amazing. We are the jewel of the country in terms of economy right now.
Jobs.
And we have been for years at this point. Seattle used to be kind of a tier. They used to kind of tier the cities in the U.S. New York, San Francisco, L.A., Chicago, those were kind of the top A-tier cities.
Yeah.
Seattle was usually on the brink of a B-C city. We are definitely a solid B moving into that A category.
Wow. Okay.
And obviously our jobs are great, but we have a ton of construction. We have a ton of employment still coming into the city.
Yeah.
And a new study that just came out, we have 58 cranes in Seattle, construction cranes. That is more cranes than San Francisco and New York City combined. So we have a ton of construction.
Say that again. How many more?
58 cranes.
Okay.
That's more cranes than New York and San Francisco combined.
Wow.
In terms of construction, we're just going off the rails. It's insane.
And we're getting a lot of relocations from the Bay Area, correct?
Yep.
You're seeing that a lot.
Oh, yeah. And that's actually twice as many cranes as Chicago, twice as many as Washington, D.C., twice as many as Portland. I mean, this is a big deal. And we actually have more. We have 18 more cranes than the next biggest city with cranes, and that's L.A.
Wow.
So we have 18 more than them, so they're at 40. We have 58. I mean, it's insane how much construction we have going on. Most of it is, it's not all condos and apartments. A lot of it is commercial, exactly.
Jobs.
So we have even more coming in.
Yeah.
Those cranes usually mean 2 to 3 years down the road is when that project's going to be done, depending on where they are in the construction process. But they're usually a couple years out before the jobs are actually going to be here. That means we still have more and more jobs coming into the area. There is no bubble in sight for us.
So that's important. If you're listening, if you're checking in on Facebook Live, listening on the radio, take this information. You're not listening to a mortgage guy and a real estate expert telling you what you want to hear to sell you more mortgages or sell you homes. This is data. And see for yourself. Drive down I-5 or take the 520, whatever you want to do, and count the cranes yourself. I'm down here 3 times a week at least. You're down here every single day because you live in Seattle. I see it like crazy. I've seen it over the last 2 or 3 years as we've done a lot more work with Amazon, and we're down on Terry Ave. It's almost kind of scary parking down there and walking around down there because there are so many cranes and so much vertical construction. So so there's your proof. Are we in a bubble? No.
Well, it's part of the picture. It's obviously a much bigger picture, but that's one huge part. Our economy is super strong. There's no end in sight really for that. The jobs that are coming into Seattle are pretty dang high-paying, good jobs. And we have a lot of people coming out of pretty wealthy cities,
moving
here,
here.
and going, hey, this is pretty
Yeah.
reasonable
Mhm.
compared to where I'm coming from,
Yep.
from San Francisco, from New York, from LA,
Yeah.
from wherever they're coming from.
Yeah.
They think this is a reasonably priced
Mhm.
city. So
Well, we just heard it
They're
the other day.
spending money.
We heard it from a mutual client of ours. You relocated her up here.
Yep.
She sold her $1.8 million home in the San Jose,
Yeah.
Bay Area market. Came up here, bought 1.2, 1.3,
something like that, yeah.
and was blown away.
yeah.
Like with the quality of home in the area,
Mhm.
Seattle in
Yeah.
general. So you're seeing that. So here, well, I do want to touch on this in regards to bubble. You've said this numerous times, and I love it. A slowdown doesn't mean that we're in trouble. It
No.
actually means we're healthy, and
Yep.
it's actually a good thing because you've
It is a
kind
good
of
thing.
seen it, which I'm actually encouraged by it.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind. If things do, because we do not want to see this continue. What is it? You were saying the other night, anywhere between 11 and
from July of 2015 to July 2016, King County home prices went up 16%. I think that's starting to slow down slightly.
yeah.
Core Logic, which is a big firm that nationwide, they're projecting that that prices are supposed to go up 5.1% year over year for the next 5 years. And so even if we only went up 5.1%, that's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah.
That'd be
Solid.
healthy, but
Yeah.
we're definitely outpacing the
Yeah.
nation. We're leading the charge on that one.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah.
So transitioning more into the finance side of it, the financial side of it, the great news is this month, over the last 3-4 weeks, we've seen the issues with appraisals slow down. We're closing
Yes,
transactions
thank
early
goodness.
again in less than 30 days, which I'm super stoked for.
Yes.
I've funded 4 or 5 of them recently for you.
Yep.
No problems into escrow in a 30-day or less escrow. So that's great news.
Yeah.
The second thing is mortgage rates are still very, very low. That's great. But a couple things you need to put on maybe on your radar. The Fed. The Fed's going to meet on December 14th. There's a lot of speculation about Janet Yellen raising the Fed funds rate. So that would happen, and that is actually a good sign of economic improvement. I'm sitting over here in a lot of data that I read. There's not a whole lot of great national and global signs of economic improvement. So will the Fed raise the funds rate? I think they're going to. That could cause a short-term drop in mortgage rates, but then could lead to an increase in mortgage rates after that.
Down
so
the road, yeah. Maybe
so I'm
come
telling
the new year or something like
I'm
that.
telling agents and my clients right now, this might be a good opportunity to prep yourself for early mid-December if you're thinking about refinancing or if buying a home is on the radar. Pretty good time to lock in a good rate right around that time period. And then election year.
Yeah.
So
Well, no one's talking about that, though.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So here's the thing. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about it because I don't think we need to.
No.
I've received a really great article and stats. It's data from my financial planner the other day. I shared it the other night.
Yep.
They've
class.
studied election years over the last, I think it was like 50 or 60 years. Tons of hype, but the reality of it is the stock market and bond markets aren't greatly impacted by the election year and a change in maybe from Democrat to Republican or Republican to Democrat. So tons of hype, not a lot to worry about. I wouldn't spend a ton of time worrying about that. I would take the information that Christian just shared with you in regards to the bubble. Hopefully that puts your mind at ease up here in the Seattle markets. And I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
It's, I want to say it's, I don't know. I think that here's my best advice. Focus on data. The articles and some of the
Not
things
the
you're
hype.
seeing, not the
Yeah.
hype, the stuff you're seeing on social media. Talk to guys like you.
Yeah. So real quick before we end, because we got to take a break and wrap up the show too.
Yeah.
But November 16th at the Shelter in Ballard. Ballard, the Shelter. It's a pretty awesome place. We're going to do another beersandhomebuying.com home buying class. If anyone is interested in going, go to beersandhomebuying.com right now. Sign up.
I'll put the link below on Facebook Live too.
Yeah, and it's free.
Yeah.
Free beer, free food, and you get a great education. Lots of fun. So that's it. Thanks, Facebook Live. Thank you, everybody on the radio listening. Stay tuned. This will be replaying Saturday from 5 to 6,
To contact
but
the
also
show
next week.
Or for more information, visit SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. That's SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. And be sure to tune in again next Monday at 3 for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, right here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL.